it's different verbiage, different conversation we're having here. All right, so again, most of it's done on anterior motor unit. When we're talking about Atlas, there is no disc that we're talking about as well, but we're talking about how we're challenging it on top of C2. So for C1, there is no flexion, extension, dynamic motion. There is no protraction, retraction. If you come in and give me protraction, retraction, you have gone into passive model. Okay, there is nothing like that for dynamic. Good with that? Okay. Now, there is lateral to medial glide. It's not lateral flexion. Lateral flexion is what happens at the AO joint. Atlas rides up onto occiput, all the stuff you hated, and you see rationale. But that's what happens. Lateral flexion happens there. Okay, lateral to medial glide is I'm actually pushing, because Atlas, it's gone this direction on top of axis, so I'm pushing it lateral to medial. I'm challenging it on top of that C2. There's a fixation. This comes from the fixation model. There's a fixation there. Okay, so I take the same things, I take the TPs, I do laterally flex her head, but I overpressure. And then I laterally flex her head and I overpressure. If I find fixation in one of those two, or restriction, because you're going to tell me it's a restriction, it's a right lateral to medial glide restriction, left lateral to medial glide restriction. Good? Okay, that one's pretty easy. Rotation, I like to use the posterior arch for rotation for a dynamic model. You may use the TPs if you want to, but you're already jamming on their TP for a lot of other stuff. This is a lot easier for me, and I think it's you get more bone under your fingers. So I come down to the posterior arch, I rotate her head to the left, and as I rotate her head to the left, her head stops the motion, and then I challenge. Okay? You don't start the challenge, you don't spring it until you get to the end range, and then you challenge. Okay? So for example, if she had an ASL, she would have, I'll add a rotation. ASLA, she had an ASLA, here it is. It will not go, it'll go all day long to the right, it will not go to the left. Okay, so I'll turn you around and show them. Just look that way. So. Thank you. So if she has ASLA, I can make it go to the right. But it's stuck here, and this would be also same for ASRP, because it's still stuck here. Okay, it will not go in this direction.
So you have a hard infill on that side.
You would have a hard infill on that side. Okay. Now to differentiate, to figure out if it's an A issue or a P issue, I now have my glides. So this is where I'm going to figure out which side is the issue in the motion realm. All right. I'm going to take her TP, and I'm going to pull it towards the center. This is my A to P glide that I'm feeling. So if it's a true ASLA, and I take this and I pull, and I slightly lateral flexor and I pull, I should feel a hard infill on the left compared to the right. It should have a little more spring on the right side. It doesn't have much anyways, but a little bit more spring on that right side compared to that left if it's a true ASLA. Okay, then I'm going to do P to A glide. Again, use the posterior arch, and you stay in a neutral plane. This is not rotating. Neutral plane for your glides. I'm going to lateral flexor again, and I'm going to motion her posterior arch. Lateral flexor again, and motion her posterior arch. If it was an ASRP, I should have a hard infill on that right P to A glide. So those are your finishes. So you kind of get an idea of what's going on, then you're kind of like, I'm in between ASLA and ASRP, and you would use your glides. And then of course you would have all your muscle and other contacts. Okay, let's talk about C2. C2, what am I looking at first? If I looked at extension with the passive model, what am I looking at here? Flexion. I do flexion by comparing C2 to C3 below, and I'm actually going to push on the spinuses, and I'm pushing up the facets. And it's going to have a springy hard infill if it doesn't move, and the reason being is the weight of the head locks down this joint. So if there's a fixation at all, the weight of the head adds extra. Okay. So my hands look like this. Okay, hands look like this. I'm on the spinous, C2, and there's C3. Okay, and I can kind of do two fingers once, or I can do this one and I do this one. Either one, I don't care what you do. Okay, and I'm going to just flex her chin down a little bit, and I'm going to press in, and then I'll press in. Okay, and I'm going to compare. And if I'm doing hard infill, soft infill, if it is restricted at C2 in flexion, it will have a hard infill compared to the C3 below. Make sense? Good? Good, good. If she has, let's go with that PLS. If she has a PLS, I'm going to then take her LPJ on the left side. And again, it's a PLS, looks like this. So where's the subluxation lie? Where's the subluxation at here? Is it in the L or is it on the R? It's on the right body.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're talking about the restricted model here. Okay, we're talking about that right body is the issue. Right? So it's sitting like this. So like this, I'm going to take that LPJ, I'm going to go into right rotation, get to the end, and I'm going to spring it. I'm going to take the LPJ on the right side, I'm going to go to the left, and I'm going to spring it. Which side should I have the hard end feel?
Right.
The right side. Okay, so it's stuck here, won't go this way. So it's called what?
Restricted and
Left rotation restriction. Good. So that's the rotation. Then we're going to go into our glides. We have glides here too as well. You can do lateral flexion right now if you want to too. I'll go ahead and do lateral flexion if you want to. What side with a PLS would I expect to have a hard end fill? Left lateral flexion. That's the open wedge where the water sits. It's harder to press a full thing of water versus a small thing of water. Okay. So I'm going to take my fingers on the LPJ, push her head away, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to, not only am I springing here, I'm actually going to use her head as a lever too. More pressure here than here. And I'm going to spring. Okay? And I'm going to do this again too. Here, and I'm going to spring.
And you're always comparing side to side, so you
Always, always. In the fixation model, if you go learn the fixation model in a seminar, they find fixation adjusted regardless. In our Sherman model of fixation, we compare side to side because it could be that person's doing. So you won't learn side to side if you go out anywhere else. Okay, so glides. Glides here as well. I'm going to come out to the C2TP, laterally flexor, and pull it towards the center. Again, I'm going to go out to the TP, lateral flexor, pull it to the center. That's the A to P glide. Okay. Reason why you would need to know A to P glide or P to A glide would tell you which side to adjust on. So if she has a PL, you don't automatically pick the posterior body on the right side if she has an A to P glide issue on the left side. I would take a spinous and drive it back A to P. That's why you need to know the A to P, P to A, and those kind of things. It tells you what side to adjust on. It's good information. P to A, I would come to the LPJ, laterally flex, and spring. We come to the LPJ, laterally flex, and spring. Okay? Notice how you can see the spring when I do it. You guys have to show a spring. When you get nervous and go in there, this is what you'll do. Right rotation, left rotation. Yeah, I have left rotation restriction. No, saw no spring. Okay? There is no restriction unless you challenge. You have to challenge it. Questions? Clarifications?
Can we go through the limited atlas one more time?
Yeah.